Moving on to VFX?
VFX, yes. Let's do VFX. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this one because I recently just did a music video where, we were electrocuting people, and that was a learning experience.
Yeah.
And after hearing what Ryan had to say, I realized I probably did a few things in the wrong order. But take it away.
Yeah, and much like you would spot with sound and music, you would do the same with visual effects, but you don't need to watch the whole episode because, well, there is some creativity involved with whoever is doing your VFX. They should have been planned out and should be very straightforward in terms of what the ask is. Certain cases where that might not apply could be, let's say you're doing a horror movie and you need a CG, computer-generated ghost or monster. Mm-hmm. Maybe you haven't figured out what that ghost looks like, and that's fine. This is your opportunity. You can talk a little bit more. But if you're not doing something like that and your VFX are maybe a little more straightforward, let's say you have a period piece and you need to paint out some modern signs or something. Maybe you have something a little more involved. You have an action and you need an explosion because, you didn't have enough money to hire a whole team and blow up a car for you. You can do it in visual effects. So what you would do is you would sit with your vendor or whoever's doing your VFX or who is helping you with that, and you show them exactly the shots that you need the VFX work on. Mm-hmm. And you can, it's a much more straightforward conversation as in, here's my shot, here's a car, we need to blow it up.
Living here in Canada, we get a lot of American productions up here, and it happens all the time where, we have to cover up something that says, hey, this is Canada, not America, whether it be a post office box or for us, the CN Tower in the background,
Yeah.
I don't know how many times VFX people have had to delete that, but yes, VFX is not always just explosions and going to space and green screen stuff. Sometimes it's as simple as removing something.
Yeah, and actually one of the most common VFX people don't realize until they're at this point is sometimes a very passionate performance. Your actor might spit a little and it lands on their chin, and you don't want that in what is the best take and the best performance they gave you, so you work on removing that because everyone will stare at that on someone's chin rather than the performance itself. So a lot of VFX can be straightforward. Diving into the little more creative side, to just give you an example, I worked on a show where it was entirely a VFX shot, and the scene was the shot was of a tree that was supposed to have 1,000 birds in it. A noise happens and all the birds fly away. That's impossible to pull off practically. So we shot a tree and we turned that over to VFX. And, they gave us a temp. And when we first saw this temp, we said we want 1,000 birds. They literally put 1,000 birds in the tree because that's what we asked for. And when you see that temp, instantly we were like, okay, we're sorry, maybe 100 birds. And then, you can kind of work, because they will do what you tell them, and, you are their client, so they want to do what you ask, but you just got to be mindful of how you explain certain things. It might seem straightforward. I want 1,000 birds flying out of this tree. But it might be a little more nuanced than that. And, then we saw 100 birds and realized that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to get the point across. Yeah. So we tried 500 birds and everybody loved that. But that was 3 iterations of the same shot to kind of get there. But it'll happen with music. It'll happen with sound. You'll hear something. You might love it and it stays. You might not love it and you might not know why, but you need some more options. But the more you can talk about things in a spotting session, the better.
Now, with my example with the music video, where we electrocuted some guys, it was just one area that we had to do it. But beforehand, I had to, I wasn't sure if I could actually do this, so I had to do some test shots to make sure it worked. Now, we pulled it off. We think it all worked great, but the amount of time that went into the editing for me on this, I could have edited a whole other music video just in the time I figured out these these short shots. And although we did test shots, on the day we decided, what would look amazing is if the camera was spinning while this shot was happening. Well, that changed everything. We still pulled it off, but that's what really added time in the editing process. Now, if I were to do this again, I would hire an editor for this. And, this is where the spotting meeting would have really, really helped, because they could have advised me on, not only how to shoot it, but, what things to do. Maybe it would have worked better if we green screened it. I don't know. That's something I'll learn on the next one. But the point I'm just trying to drive home here is that, yes, having these spotting meetings are key. I mean, I think they should, for VFX, sometimes they have to happen before filming to make sure that you film them the correct way. And then other times, you do need to have them after the filming just to, explain things like when we were electrocuting them, like how big did I want the lightning bolts or the electrical surges? Did we want it to fill the whole screen or only part of the screen? Because I was doing it, I already knew that. But, if I was trying to convey that to an editor, the last thing I would want to say to them, or the last thing I would want to happen is, for them to spend hours and hours and hours doing these lightning effects, only for me to see them and go, oh, no, that's too small. They got to be bigger. There's got to be more. That's why we have these meetings, because you want to get as close to that final vision as possible on the first run. You don't want it just to be you don't want to use these as test runs.